to get the main messages, especially related to the policy issues. So what do we get from the results of the DESIRA in terms of policy tools and policy initiatives? So for this reason, I have entitled this presentation Principles for a Sustainable Rural Digitalization. We have to start from the fact that digitalization is a socio-technical process. This is a key starting point for the DESIRA. So we have on one side infrastructure, application systems, services, devices, and they are embodied into civil society, public administration, and private business. And as long as they intervene in this realm, they change the shape of this relation, they change power relationships, they change the purposes of these activities. And so this changing of this configuration have an effect on outcomes. Outcomes can be related to productivity, to the environment, to social issues, etc. So we can read this picture from the left to the right, but if we think in terms of policy, we should read this graph from the right to the left. So, and we should start from what are the desired outcomes of digitalization, and then asking how we would like to see the private business, civil society, public administration shaped, especially in rural area, and then going to how to design the technologies, so the infrastructure, the application system, the services that divide. And this is a kind of a turning the approach to technologies that sometimes in the current discourse is very much related to the assumption that digitalization is good per se. As already Enrique said, digitalization is not good per se. In order to be good, it has to be shaped to a certain extent. In fact, as you know, there are a lot of risks related to digital technologies. The most important one is the divide, but we have problems related to privacy, autonomy, surveillance, power imbalance, security, technology bias, social bias, and also systemic effects. This aspect of systemic effects is, I think, underexplored, especially in our field. For example, what happens if the gains of productivity at the farm level get, let's say, increase in the use of resources instead of reduction? This is one systemic effect that, for example, has been already observed in the irrigation water management system. So for this reason, our approach is that from technology as an end itself, so considering digitalization as a goal per se, we want to consider technologies as the means to an end. So starting from challenges and opportunities, and then shaping technologies accordingly. And how to do this? In order to do this, most of the work we have done through our 20 living labs is to create categories. For example, trying to understand what are the purposes of digital innovation. We can have a productivity, administration, resource efficiency, quality of the environment, health, visibility, reputation, business intelligence, so on and so forth. And it is important to anticipate these aspects because maybe you focus on productivity, but you don't take into consideration other aspects that could be relevant. And for example, when we consider rural digitalization, we can say that, for example, digitalization can have effects on rural life and on several domains of rural life. For example, shopping, traveling, doing administrative practices, entertaining, etc. And for example, if we consider rural administration, we will look at work organization, service provision, law enforcement, etc. So the importance of trying to explore these specific domains is to get the awareness of what kind of technologies we need, what will be the impact of each technology on different domains, but also to understand what are the relations between different domains. For example, what happens when the public administration provide e-services on let's say rural life, on mobility, on health, etc. So we have to consider in a systemic approach this kind of aspects, and it is not by chance that our core concept is the concept of socio-cyber-physical systems. So considering that there are cyber-physical systems, but they are embedded into social relations. So starting from this, and thanks to the experts contacted through the Rural Digitalization Forum, we have identified 6 principles. The first principle is creating the basic conditions for digitalization. As already Joan Velasco has said, we have a problem in a gap in infrastructure and also in human capital. And okay, also it is necessary to identify the economic conditions for digitalization. But then it is important to anchor in digitalization to sustainable development. And we should ask ourselves, are all initiatives in the field of digitalization anchored to sustainable development, and especially to sustainable development goals? And the third aspect is adapting digitalization to different contexts. We see that in context where digitalization works may differ from a context where the same technology won't work. So it is important to have a participatory and place-based approaches to digitalization. The other 3 principles are favoring digital inclusions, so considering proactive initiative to favor digital inclusion, including education, but there should be much more related to outreach, awareness, etc. A key concept emerging and let's say also descending from our concept of socio-cyber-physical system is this concept of digital ecosystem. So the set of people, technologies, relations, etc., that help data to flow from one side to another, and for people to learn from others. And for example, we have identified the key role of connectors, people that connect together data, people, and things. The last principle, the need for designing policy tools for sustainable digitalization. We know that in the new regulation on rural development, there is a strong emphasis on let's say strategies for digitalization in rural areas, but we should really be able to create coherence between all the policies that affects digitalization to rural areas, and to have the capacity to create this orientation for innovation in rural areas. And so we consider the importance of regional digitalization agencies, and also a role of agriculture and rural knowledge and innovation systems that may foster digitalization to beyond agroforestry. So we have identified 4 key domains for policies: human capital, innovation, investments, and last but not least, the governance that should be really oriented to rural proofing the effects of digitalization. And with this, I would like to thank you.